recidivate. People reoffend. I'm sorry, give me a minute. Our systems today are broken. Our criminal justice systems, our educational systems, a bunch of our systems. I think we all can agree with that. I see people shaking their head. I know personally that the criminal justice system is broken. We don't have to recreate the wheel, but we can put rubber on it. And how we can do that is through restorative practices. And I'm going to share with you this process of which restorative practices originate from. They originate from the medicine wheel, which is over 5,000 years old. Circles, that's what they originate from, the medicine which is over 5,000 years old, and they come from the Dagara tribe of northern Ghana, bordering Burkina Faso. So this is where this ritual comes from, the peace circle. And after this, I'm sorry I didn't share with you guys. After we do this right here, we will have the ability to participate in a peace circle. So we'll do that after this. The four cornerstones are perpetual learning, truth, common values, and progress. These are the foundational aspects of my engagement process in which I created, which have restorative justice and restorative and African origins. Does anyone know anything about the 5 elements of hip hop? Anyone? Does anyone know the 5 elements of hip hop? No one knows the 5. Mama, I think you look like you know. Can you give me one? You know all of it? Graffiti. So graffiti is the written art. DJ is the heartbeat. It's the soul. MC, that's vocal. B-boy, that's vibration, that's dance, that's physical.
What's number 5? Loud.
The who? I don't understand. So we have graffiti, MCing, DJing, the B-boy and the B-girl. To me, one of the most essential one and the origins of how the 5 elements came about is knowledge. People have and continue to go back to our origins. And that's what I have done with this process. It is on us as a global community to build community. We have all experienced harm in one form or another. And harm breeds dis-ease. Did y'all hear what I said? Harm breeds dis-ease. Dis-ease is an imbalance. And restorative practices are rooted in balance. They call it balance and restorative justice. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we'll be doing this evening, balancing things out. A peace circle is intimate, but yet it's inclusive. You shouldn't have more than 8 people with one facilitator, just because of the dynamics of the people and the dynamics of what is going on. There's a confidentiality aspect of the peace circles. When you are in the circle, what is in the circle stays within the context of the circle. Values are placed by people who are a part of the circle. If we're a part of the circle, each one of us names a value to create the space, to make it safe. Common values is my 3rd cornerstone, and with that is one of the most difficult areas to make things happen because it's emotional in nature. The first cornerstone, perpetual learning, is mental. The second cornerstone, truth, is spiritual. The third cornerstone, common values, is the cornerstone of connectivity and it's emotional. And the fourth and final cornerstone is progress, and that's physical. Those are the 4 key elements of the basic needs of life. So when you're working out of each quadrant, it's an intentional and willing process. And with this process, I ask a question, and it's internal work. So with each cornerstone, I'm asking a question. I'm gonna get into it right now so you guys can know exactly what I'm talking about. I just wanna make it clear. I'm gonna ask a question to everybody. How many of y'all have participated in a peace circle or have done peer jury? Okay, so a lot of y'all know what I'm talking about already. Okay. So, community are the people that you interact with and encounter as you're making your way around the global community. I was limited in my reach in prison, and now I'm able to physically move around. Right now, we are currently in an information age. When I left 16 years ago, we didn't have cell phones like we have them now. They don't exist as they do right now. They have cameras and information. Cell phones are personal computers in your hand. So with that, the global community is able to access other people across the planet. So with that, what I'm trying to do is bring the Peace Circle global to everyone. So I'm gonna get to the first cornerstone. The first cornerstone is perpetual learning. And the question asked with perpetual learning, and it's internal, like I said, it's a question that you're asking of yourself, is are you intentionally willing to receive knowledge? Anyone who knows me, who in here knows me? When you ask me, how are you doing, what is my response?
I'm still learning.
I'm still learning. I got that from my mentor, and I say it constantly. I stay in the perpetual learning state because it's essential for my well-being at the state of where we are right now. So for 12 years, I dealt with people on a personal level, officers, staff, detainees. We had to pay the utmost attention to every situation that we were in because there could be danger lurking around the corner that we wouldn't even know about. So my observation and observation of those who I know that have manifested from greater confinement is very keen because we have to pay attention to everything. Facial expression, body movement, officers coming into our cells, taking stuff from us. We have to pay attention to everything. So when I actually manifested and came home, I thought something was wrong with me because I paid attention to everything. And what I've learned is that talent helped me be where I'm at right now. Because working with youth, I'm able to observe things that I wouldn't normally have observed if I hadn't taken the path that I have taken. At certain points during my sentence, I lived with 7 people. So I joke with people all the time and tell them I have my doctorates in sociology. Dealing with different personalities for 12 years, daily, different men, pedophiles, murderers, robbers, you name it. Coexisting with these people who some of them do have mental illness was school for me. You know, some may not agree, but it was school for me because I learned so much. Let me share. I was able to create a form of interaction that builds community through the 4 cornerstones, which are perpetual learning, truth, common values, and progress. It is the template that I have found in Circle that creates safe space that has allowed me to create this dialogue, this interaction that I've been executing for the past 5 years since I've been home. Before I get to the process, I want to be as transparent as possible. There are 4 questions that I always like to get answered, and I like to answer for people so you can know exactly what I'm dealing with. So, on this planet, we do. People do. That's what we do. We do. So, because of this, I'm going to let you guys know, first question I ask is, what do I want to do? What I want to do is build a global community. I want peace circles to be bigger than just in that circle. I want us to be around the world. Why do I want to do what I want to do? I want to do what I want to do because I've experienced mistreatment, and mistreatment is not acceptable. All of the isms that pervade this planet are deeply rooted in mistreatment of people because of sexual orientation, because of the color of skin, because of the grade of your hair, because of the type of car you drive. Mistreatment is just not acceptable for me. That is why. The third question is, how do I anticipate doing what I plan to do? I anticipate doing what I do with these 4 cornerstones, which are perpetual learning, truth, common values, and progress. And last but not least, what do I expect the constructive result to be of me doing what I have been doing? And for me, that's creating peace and balance in a world where there is not peace and there is not balance, and there's a whole bunch of inequities. So I just wanted to be transparent and let you guys know what my intent was. The foundational cornerstone of perpetual learning asks the question of whether you, with intention, are willing to learn something for which you had no prior knowledge of knowing. That's a fairly easy question for me. I love to learn, yes. The intention of the process is essential. I can't stress how essential that intentionality is to this process. And the willingness to actually take part in the process is just, and it's not equal to the intention of the process. It is an admission of how much you don't know. In this world today, you don't hear too many people talking about how much they don't know. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know much. And that's why I stay in the perpetual learning state. What put me on this path was back in 1999 when I was in Joliet Correctional Facility. I was on 3 Gallery, and there was a gang chief of which I was associated with at the time. And he called me to a cell. So I go up to a cell, it's 2 big guys standing at his door. You know, for those who've been incarcerated, people who have status, gang chiefs, they have security, personal security. So we had 2 big guys standing at the door. So I go in, I sit down, and he talks to me, gets to ask me all these questions. I heard about this guy. This guy was very nice with his hands. He fought really well, and he was really good with both his hands and his feet. So I'm sitting in this man's cell, I heard about him, I heard rumors, and this guy's more like a guidance counselor than he was a chief telling me to do things that I shouldn't have been doing. What the young man told me was, go to school. He said, the gap that you're gonna have from you being in the streets, from you being in prison, to manifesting back in the streets, you need to fill those gaps in with education. He said, so when people look at a resume or they look at something, they'll see that those gaps were filled with education. You don't necessarily have to say that you did the education in prison, but you definitely need to fill those gaps in. And mind you, this is coming from a gang chief. The last thing that I remember him telling me is, read as much as you can. So taking the advice of the man, I put in to go to the library, and went the next day, and the first book I checked out was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I see everybody smiling. That's one of my favorite books. I read it at least once a year. It was very pivotal in the transformation of who I am today. And what it did was it reinforced the foundation that both my mother and father instilled in me. So 12 years later, after I did get out of prison, I have a laundry list of accomplishments that I at least feel are accomplishments, such as 2 degrees, 4 trades, 11 years of journaling, creating Spanish as a second language class, as well as learning Spanish myself by watching telenovelas every day. And watching closed captioning in Spanish. So I wrote down the words and I looked them up, and that's how I learned Spanish. So eventually, at some point in time, I actually got to start hanging out with people who actually speak it, and that's when I really started knowing how to speak the language. As well as a yoga class. The institution that I was heavily into programming, and that's where I got my programming chops, and which I do right now in prison. So I created a yoga club because I got injured on the football field, and I started stretching and realized that, hey, if you stretch and breathe, I started getting books in, and I thank my parents and Pecan and other people who sent me books so I can read up on these things. A yoga class, a book club, and I got the funding for the book club and got the books and started the book club just to diversify my reading material. So every institution that I actually went in, because of the education that I had prior to prison, I was able to be afforded in administrative positions. And while in these positions, I was able to learn, I was able to engage with people who you would never thought that you would be engaging with. There's one particular, and with each cornerstone I'm sharing stories, there's one particular officer who was a racist suspect. I don't call people racist. He was a racist suspect. I suspected him of being racist because of things he said and things that I've seen him do. But because I was an administrative worker, I was allowed to be in different spaces, and I was able to be in this space with this man. And he asked me a question. He said, man, like, I've never met anybody like you. The way you talk, the way you move. It's like people like me all around the world. He's like, but I've never seen it. I was like, where do you go? He's like, well, Centralia. I go to Centralia. I go to Brooklyn, a town by Centralia, and he goes to surrounding areas. He's like, the majority of people I see, black people I see, is on television or at work. So to see a black male that is well-spoken, that is educated, and is working amongst his peers was sobering to him. That changed his whole paradigm. Just me being there and him seeing me changed his whole paradigm. Knowing that what you do, like I said, build a community, and it starts with each and every one of you. So, I could go on and on about how learning state adds immense value to my life, but I like to give practical steps or practical keys, or at least a practical, that you can apply right now. So I have four ways in which each cornerstone, I'll give you 4 ways in which you practical things that you can do. Greet everyone. If you came in today while I was here, the chances are I greeted you. I found out greeting people changes their behavior. You know, smiling at someone, even when people are just mean. You say good morning and they're looking at you crazy. It really doesn't matter. I'm not going to own that. But I bet you I'm going to say good morning tomorrow, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's the personal relationships that we are lacking now. In prison, we had a lot of personal relationships because we had to write, we could talk, we could visit. It took intention and will to do those things. It took money, financially. Every letter that I wrote cost money, and I needed money, so I got money from people who were around me. But what I'm saying is, the relationship that we had when we were in prison were personal. You knew people. But some of my closest friends to this day are ex-convicts, successful ex-convicts. Let me add that. But we do exist. Number 2, interrupt sometimes. It's something I need to work on. I know this. But I'm practicing listening. Listening is essential in learning. One of the people that I studied, one of my friends put me on to Napoleon Hill. He said you can't learn and talk at the same time. You can't learn and talk at the same time. So when y'all hear me pausing and doing stuff like that, I'm trying not to talk so I can figure some things out. And I think we all should do that. We should be quiet and listen. My mom is amazing at that. So number 3, ask what part you play. You'll find out some things when you start asking yourself those types of questions. What part did I play in this? Don't worry about the other person. I go through this with my children at home all the time. Okay, we're not worried about Sarah. What did you do? What could you have done? You know, put it on yourself. Ownership creates pride. That's why communities look like they do. No one owns anything. When you own something, you have pride. In communities that I grew up in, or some communities that I occupied, the cars look better than the houses because they own the cars. People ask questions, why is this, why is that? People ask and listen. And the last one, the fourth one is, everybody has a story. You know, listen, you have a story. I don't know you guys' story. Some of you guys I do, but like, everyone has a story. There are people within the global community who y'all see the pause? Y'all see the pause? You can't learn while talking. Well, a lot of people within the global community, well, at least the people that I personally experienced, stayed in the perpetual learning state, and that's where I love to stay. I'm gonna move on to the next cornerstone, because I am limited for time. The next cornerstone being truth. The question with truth is, are you willing, with intention, to respect the truth of others as you would want them to respect your truth? That is essential. That is an essential question that you have to ask, and even a personal question that you have to ask before you even go and start trying to engage with anyone else. You need to handle things with yourself. So are you willing and with intention, willing to accept others' truth as you would want your truth respected? Mind you, there are people within the global community that see truth that no one else sees. We all know those people. They make up stuff. It's not reality. But the thing is, let them have that. If they're not harming anyone, let them have it. No harm, no foul. I mentioned harm because in restoring, harm is essential. Harm is essential. We don't address people, we address harm. When you address people, it gets really personal. You know, if I say, Stephen, if I say, when you did this, it's not so personal. If you say Stephen, automatically I'm going to get defensive. Address harm, not the people. So with harm, it can be caused by telling the truth. If you understand what I'm saying, harm can be caused by telling the truth. But with that, if there will be no more further harm done after this, and it prevents them from further harm, death, or anything, or death, tell the truth. My father always told me, tell the truth. There are certain truths that resonate with us, and there was one in particular that changed the paradigm for me. In 1999 or 98, I was in the Cook County Jail, and I was looking forward to seeing people that I hadn't seen because I was in there for 3 to 4 months at the time. I asked people to come see me, and I called on the telephone whenever I could or whenever people accepted, and I tried to contact people. One particular day, I got a letter from one of my favorite people on the planet. My sister, Pamela Jackson, was right here on the front row smiling. She sent me a letter, and she said to me, I was not the one who put you in jail. And let me preface that, or let you know what came before that. Before that, I was trying to get her to come see me. I was like, man, why are you not coming see me? Bring my nephew, come see me. And she told me, look, I didn't put you there. You did. Those were her exact words. I promise you that vibrated every fiber of my being, and it hurt. It was the truth, but it hurt. She knew me. Ever since she known me longer than I know myself. And so she knows me, and I received it because of who she was. It was at that point that truth became a cornerstone in my life. I didn't have the rest of the cornerstones at the time, but at that point in time, truth became a cornerstone in my life. Thank you, man. I was gassed that she wrote it, and I was upset a little bit, but it forced me to go inside myself. The day after I received that letter, I fasted for 7 days. Only thing I did was drink water. I really, really, really start internalizing some things and start looking at myself in the mirror and started finding out some realizations about myself because of that truth. So truth is definitely a cornerstone in my life, and as well to be a cornerstone of engagement for you if you want to build a global community. Deceit oppresses and imprisons. The intent of truth at times is to prevent and or further prevent harm of yourself or someone else. Truth is power. Always remember that. So with that, the 4 practical steps which you can apply as soon as you leave right now. Number 1, tell the truth. That's simple. Tell the truth. Number 2, always ask questions. That's how you get solutions. The world revolves around question and answer. It seems simple, but it's fact. The world revolves around question and answers. That's how you find out. Number 3, when you hear someone say something that you may not necessarily agree with, recall a time when you've done the same thing, when you did something where other people didn't agree with it. Reflect on yourself. And number 4, everyone has a story. So that brings me to the 3rd cornerstone, which is common values, which is the cornerstone of connectivity, how we connect with people. I have directly witnessed some of the most transformational work that I've done in this quadrant of common values. It's the most difficult because it's emotional. And the way I was raised, not necessarily by my father, but by the culture, social norms, is that men don't deal with emotions. Women deal with emotions. So I was always the one that tried not to deal with emotion, even though that's the type of person that I am. This quadrant, and restorative justice practitioners will tell you that after you get past the values, this is the part where people are able to connect because of the common values. When you hear a story of someone who shares a common value with you of character, or maybe integrity, or honesty, or non-judgmentalness, anyone who's been in circle with me knows that one of my favorite values when we do values rounds is non-judgmentalness, because I've been judged my whole life. And now that I have an X on my back, which I call the scarlet letter, I'm judged even more and prevented from doing things even though I have done my time and done more. So non-judgmentalness is one of my biggest. Does anybody share that? Anyone? Non-judgmentalness? Don't want to be judged? The people who don't have their hands up don't have any dirty mind. I definitely do. I attribute this to the fact because emotions are involved in this quadrant. When we start talking about what people value, emotions get higher. Emotions erupt. I've seen it. I'm not gonna share that story because I have another story to share. Emotions aren't bad. They were designed to be a sensor, a guide for us. That's what they're for. When we feel them, it indicates something, puts us on notice. That's what emotions are for. We are not necessarily meant to react off emotion. Process the emotion. And so like, why? Ask why. I don't know where this comes from. I think it's Lee Iacocca or someone with Toyota. Ask why 5 times. The car doesn't work. Why? Because the tire blew out. Why did the tire blow out? Because the rim. Well, it was the rim. It was faulty. Someone put it together. And why did the person? He didn't have any sleep. You know what I'm saying? Ask why. You'll get to the bottom of some stuff if you get to ask them why 5 times. I'm serious. So, as a young man, as a young black man who works with all children, and specifically in the Oak Park area, it warms my heart when I see people who wouldn't normally be sitting around each other, sitting around and realizing that they have more in common than they don't. it warms my heart, and it trips me out to see that I have more in common with some people that I wouldn't normally. I'm looking at people who I've been in circles with right now in the audience, and I'm